Hello and welcome to this video. I already know that from the start I may sound like I'm going to contradict myself in this video, but I've been pondering the worth of self-defense classes for people with no combat experience. They don't belong to any martial art club or any boxing ring or anything at all. They're just the average person on the street who wishes to take a self-defense class. Now, I do highly recommend these. I've said it before in other videos that these are invaluable and everyone should attend them. But at the same time, are they? And I've been giving it some thought, thinking, do you actually learn how to defend yourself in one of these situations? I posted quite a while ago now a video on how not to defend yourself against a knife attack. And it was a video that Daily Mail posted, and the advice given on that video was absolutely shockingly bad, which is why I made a video about it. And I was thinking, well, if you have like people giving really terrible advice, how worth it is it? But then I was thinking, well, even if you have a good instructor, there's several problems. When you're in a self-defense class, you're presented with an unrealistic scenario. I'm not like saying that the techniques and stuff wouldn't happen, like you learn maybe various defences, how to get out of a grab or whatever, and or maybe a stranglehold. I'm not saying that's not going to happen, but what's unrealistic about it is the person attacking you, because obviously to defend yourself you need to learn how to defend against a realistic attack, but 9 times out of 10 the person doing the attack, they don't have it in them to be that aggressive, so they're kind of like I've been to classes, I've done several self-defense classes, sometimes with my old karate and sometimes for separate organisations, but say for example a grab, you know, really a realistic person, if they're going to grab you, they're going to grab tight, they're going to grab forcefully, you know, and you're not going to have much to do. But in one of these situations, the person, they're a bit nervous, they're not sure what they're doing, you know, and they kind of grab really weak and pathetic, and you know, there's nothing to defend against. It's like saying if someone's trying to hit you and they don't know what they're doing, and you're thinking, well, how much is the person actually learning? Are they learning anything? Is it actually worth their time being there? So I went online to ask people, what do they think? So I've got a list here. I've got 38 comments back, so I'm going to go through them one at a time. If people are kind of repeating themselves, then I won't. So top one, the first one on here: teach the technique, put it in a mouthpiece and some headgear, bring some ibuprofen, play the part of the attacker. If the student rings your bell, knocks you out, it works. I'm not entirely sure that's entirely practical street self-defense, so we're going to move on from that. Defense depends on the teacher and the class. Some of them are horrible, others are not so bad. Again, that's what I was alluding to. Some classes, some teachers, they teach you nonsense and you go out with a false sense of security. So the next one, it depends on the class. If it's good, it will help a lot in protecting oneself. It is impossible to learn a lot of technical skills, so that cannot be the main context. Then it can be something important and good. So I think basically what they're saying is basically just the basics of learning self-defense. I mean, like in karate, you learn multiple different strike points, and then you can get really technical into different pressure points and stuff. In a realistic situation, that's not going to apply really to the average person. So like when I did a Krav Maga course a little while ago, basically the points were, you know, like eyes, throat, genitals really. I think that was the main points. Or am I quoting from Turbo Kid film? Might have been the same things actually, but the vulnerable points, like the eyes are vulnerable, the throat is vulnerable, the genitals are vulnerable, and they're easy to get to. Next one. The important part of training for self-defense is learning to simply react. How to punch, kick, bite or headbutt doesn't matter nearly as much as most untrained people freeze or turtle up. That's not good. Technique comes after. And then someone's applying about kumite classes, about learning not to duck and freeze. And that's the thing, see, in karate, I did a lot of kumite. I loved kumite, absolutely loved it. But it's not realistic in a street sense. You know, someone might come through with a nice long Zenkutsudachi, that's a long stance, and a nice straight Gyakuzuki or something, or Oizuki, just a straight punch, which the average person on the street won't do that. They do a hook style punch. But in kumite, you move through, you step with your punch or whatever to Jodan face or Chudan chest area or whatever, and then you move out the way. Maybe you do a nice Chudan uke and maybe a strike to the face. It's very basic, but you might do something a bit more complicated, like a throw or something. But it's not realistic. In a realistic situation, if someone's attacking you, they're not going to do a single attack and then wait for you to do your thing. That's not going to happen. So they'll wait. As much as I loved kumite, and you can feel very strong and powerful doing it. You know, someone comes through with this attack, they're going full bore, and you get out of the way, you defend yourself, and they're on the floor, and it's lovely. Again, it's not realistic. So that's why I was thinking about self-defense for people that have no previous training. In fact, you know, I mean, a lot of people will say, I think some of the comments further down, but I've also heard it a lot of times, karate is not good for self-defense, but it depends on the style. The style I did, I was lucky, we did do heavily on self-defense as well, not just like kumite, but we did do a lot of self-defense things, but a lot of karate styles don't do that. So I'm guessing what IMO means is, in my opinion, it depends on the instructor. I've been taught several styles of self-defense seminars. I have taught different types of self-defense classes. I believe strictly self-defense classes, no prior training. It should be straightforward, basic technique that work for everyone. Nothing flashy, no fancy high kicks. Again, that's what I've already said. It depends on the class itself. If I've seen some great self-defense classes, I've seen some not so great, and that's similar to what someone's already written. I think it's important for those taking the class that those lessons they learn have to be repeated over and over to learn memory muscle. You see, the thing is I have with that, most people may take one of these classes and then that's it. And like, with karate, you've got your ki on, which is your basics, and you do learn the same things over and over and over again, and you do learn memory muscle. But in self-defense, I think 99% of the people will go to a class, they have a good time, maybe have a bit of a laugh, think they've learned something, and then never do it ever again. So you don't want something that you have to train your muscles to remember. You want something that you can just be like, okay, I'm being attacked, how do I get out of this quickly? And again, that's my issue. I think the biggest thing, I mean, when I started doing karate, the biggest thing is not to be there. I mean, like, we're talking about, again, like maybe in kumite, and then the punch is coming in, then you move off the line of the attack at the very last moment. For us, in our style, it was all very much about moving off the line of the attack. The block, which isn't really a block, is received, but that's a different video, was just an insurance policy. So, I mean, like, you could say, like, if their country's a war zone, like Syria, for example, you know, if you go there, you're likely to get hurt, so you don't go there. You know it's dangerous, you don't go there. It's exactly the same principle. And I'm not saying you should walk around being scared the whole time. I mean, that's ridiculous. But if there's a situation where you know something is going to be dangerous, then you would probably be wise to avoid it. I mean, that's self-defense. I mean, for me, self-defense is basically, there's a situation. I mean, I always used to say, if someone is starting something and I can walk away unharmed, then that's self-defense. There doesn't have to be any punches thrown or any kicks or anything. There doesn't have to be any physical contacts. Maybe self-defense is simply just being good at diplomacy and negotiating and talking your way out of a situation, calming and diffusing. And that was quite a big thing when I worked in Wetherspoon like 10 years ago, or was it 11 years ago now? I mean, time's moving on. But sometimes if someone was drunk and they were starting, sometimes you just needed to talk to them in a rational manner to diffuse a situation. And that could be classed as self-defense. So where are we up to? Of course, it depends on the self-defense class instructor. In addition, if you don't practice the techniques you learn in that class, it will never work. It needs to be practiced to the point where it's just muscle memory and reaction. In a stressful situation, you are going to react and not think straight. I saw a clip from video surveillance camera where a SWAT team instructor got robbed at gunpoint at an ATM machine. He disarmed the assailant in a split second and handed the gun back to the assailant because that's how they practice the drill. The instructor got shot but disarmed the assailant a second time. He survived. I'm sure they have changed how they practice that drill. And then someone else has written in fancy writing, you can only fight the way you practice. But again, that's what I'm talking about. This is like for people that do regular classes. Maybe you go to a regular karate class or a regular Krav Maga class or a regular kickboxing class, and that is, you can learn the muscle memory. But I've been to many self-defense classes, and again, a lot of people turn up, they do one session or one day, might be a day course, and then that's it, they're gone. You never see them again, they never do it again. They think they've got the tools, and maybe they have got enough tools. Maybe they have picked up enough in that one day to just, know that, if someone maybe goes to strangle you. Getting out of a strangle is actually quite easy. There's a whole variety of things. I quite often see on like TV or films and someone's getting strangled and they're like, and then that's rubbish. It's actually very easy to get out of a strangle. But again, that's because I practiced it over and over and over again. So, okay, so someone's gone to 1942. Things like the 1942 All-in Fighting Manual was designed to be taught to large groups of men in a short period of time, but it's a system to destroy the other person, not defend oneself. It was directly proportional to the cause of harm to the other person. Okay, I'm not talking about destroying the other person. Everything has to be proportional. Again, different countries have different laws. This is also a problem of like this video being in around the world. I mean, like in here in the UK, it's actually legal to actually, if you feel threatened, if you feel like your life is in danger, it's actually within your right, and legally you're allowed to strike first in defence. I had to do jury service on this very case many years ago, and basically the thing was, did the defendant feel threatened? That was the crux of the case, because he had struck this guy, had broken his jawbone, and we had to figure out, did this person strike out of malice? Was he the aggressor, or did he genuinely feel threatened and therefore he was defending himself? And how many are in a jury? Is it 12? I think it is. Anyway, all but one of us decided that actually this guy was actually genuinely did feel threatened, and therefore, in accordance to the law, striking first was allowed. But then in your country, where you're watching, that may be different. And I don't think the British law has changed on that in recent years. So again, with self-defense, you have to know what's legal and what's proportionate. I mean, if I think someone's gonna maybe just slap me around a bit, it'd probably be unjustified for me to break both their arms and legs, and that's clearly disproportionate. So I wouldn't do that. And then someone else has written, depends on who's teaching, and exactly the same as karate classes. If you're untrained in a self-defense, then it will help. Like others have said on here, it depends on who teaches you, but you have to put the work in and train. If you just take a class or two, I don't think it will help you, especially if you are a real green at fighting. I'm not sure what they mean by a real green at fighting. It's probably some phrase that everyone else on here knows and understands. I've never heard that phrase, but again, what they're saying is what I've said already. 1 or 2 classes isn't going to help. It just isn't. You have to be able to be sure of yourself and be confident with what you're doing. Someone else has agreed with an earlier statement. Technique will not help you if you freeze. Yeah, again, you can learn these techniques, but in the heat of the moment, if someone is coming for you and they mean to hurt you, I mean, that's the difference with a self-defense class and in reality. In a self-defense class, someone can do all these techniques. Maybe they grab your wrist, maybe they strangle you, or they go to hit you, or they grab you, whatever. They don't have any intent to hurt you. That's the difference. I mean, a lot of these people probably have never, ever put their hands around another person's neck before in their life. So it's alien to them. You know, they don't feel comfortable doing it. They've got no intention to hurt. So you're defending yourself, learning these techniques against someone who isn't committed to it. And then you get out, and then if someone does generally want to hurt you, it's very different. The intent is different. Your heart rate will go through the roof, the adrenaline's pumping, maybe you have trouble breathing. That's the key thing. If you can't breathe, you can't defend yourself. A good technique is to maybe get the wind out of them, but that's not always possible. So to stay calm and cool and collected in that situation and deal with the threat is difficult. I mean, it is difficult. I mean, I've done karate for many years. Okay, I'm not training now because of my health, but I know that in a real situation, it's so different. The intent, you know, you can be training every day for years and then get in a situation where someone actually wants to hurt you. It is a completely different scenario. Maybe you go sparring down the gym or kickboxing or taekwondo or MMA or whatever. You know, these are sports. They have rules, and you know, to fight within those limitations of the rules is not the same as on the street. I mean, yeah, and say if you do one of these things, again, you're training over and over and over and over again. It's not just a simple self-defense class. So even though the situation of someone genuinely trying to hurt you is going to be a different scenario, you can fall back on your training and hopefully be all right. But I know someone, she used to do kickboxing regularly, and she was in an abusive relationship, and she used to fight back. And she told me that eventually she learnt that it was just easier just to curl up in a ball and just have the physical abuse put upon her because got it over with quicker. Luckily, she got out of that situation, which brings me back to the point I was talking about at the beginning of the video, and I said the best form of defense is not to be there. She got out of that situation. That person is history, and she's moved on with her life, and she's happy now because she's not there. She's not in that situation. So again, self-defense isn't always just about a one-off attack. You know, defending yourself can be an ongoing process, and having the strength to actually walk out of a bad situation, which some people find difficult to do. Reading the literature on this, it seems self-protection is the more constructive term. Karate instructors are not necessarily the best people to teach it for 3 reasons. Okay, let's have a look at these. Lack of tactical awareness. Instructors with dojo-only mostly experience may struggle with understanding context, philosophy, tactics of self-protection, including de-escalation skills, which I believe I've briefly touched on all those points. Inappropriate technical instructions. Karate techniques take years to become competent in. I've seen karate-based self-defense where the technique taught would be hard for someone of 2 to 3 years training to execute effectively, which I've touched on. Legal context. Few instructors ever discuss this, and from experience I'd say silence is often equates to ignorance, and again he goes on to talk about ignorance, the legal stuff, which again I've said, you need to know the law basically, what is reasonable, what can you do. And then someone's gone, here, especially your last point, slogans and catchy phrases often sound cool, but they won't keep you out of jail, prison. At my age, 5 to 10 years prison would be a death sentence. Learning your own state's, country's laws, and blah, blah, blah. It goes on again. It's stuff I've already mentioned. And then someone else goes, all good answers there, Terry. And what they boil down to is, does the instructor have great understanding of the street conflicts and how you're most likely to be attacked, men, women and children, is he teaching from the very beginning, i.e. awareness through to physical protection? Again, being aware of your surroundings, that's a big deal. I mean, if you're like walking home at night and you've got a well-lit path and a dark alley, which one are you going to take? But there again, I used to watch Crime Watch when it was on quite a lot, and people do get attacked outside their homes. But again, you've got to be aware of what's around you. You've got to, and again, I'm not saying walk around being scared all the time and thinking, oh crap, what's behind every bush and every corner. But just having a general awareness of who is around you, what what's going on, but without being paranoid. It's a fine line. Again, someone here again reiterating what I said earlier. My main concern of self-defense would be seeing how big the disconnect between what is being taught and what is likely to happen. So this guy here has written about 20% bullshit and 80% misleading, or is it the other way around? Everyone I've seen attending is completely situational and requires the perp to be compliant with the taught set move. Again, that's kind of what I've already said. They don't understand that, for instance, rapists are in a state of hyper-aggression and stepping on their foot or poking them in the eye will cause them a crackhead lifting a bus level of adrenaline rush. If you haven't trained in multiple styles of martial arts for at least a decade, and even if you have a gun or a knife which is allowed in your country, and if you can't even carry a knife, you should consider whether or not you're a good, responsible person, and then maybe make a judgment call, the decision to break the law versus losing your life. So basically, I think this guy's repeating a lot of what I've said already. Again, he's thinking some of these classes just won't teach you the necessaries, again, and they don't represent a realistic situation. And there's loads of other comments here. I'm just going to put them on the screen so you can pause or slow the video down and read them yourself. So if I go back to my original opening question for this video, are self-defense classes worth it? On the whole, I would still say yes. I think they are worth it. If you can find a teacher who's teaching realistic situations, like the last one I went to, they actually stopped the class about an hour in or something. We were there for the whole day, and they actually stopped the class and they said, look, this isn't working because the attackers weren't attacking properly, and they said the defenders cannot possibly learn how to defend themselves if the attackers aren't attacking in the correct manner. You've got to actually mean it, and that's basically how it is. But again, it's not going to be a nice set choreographed thing. I mean, I've done karate for a lot of years. I've done many self-defense classes, but I don't know how I'd fare if someone was to attack me for real, with real intent to hurt me. I don't know how I'd fare. I know I'm not the strongest person around. I know I'm not the fastest person around, and I know with my health, my energy plummets dramatically. I have a condition called CFS. I've done loads of videos on this on my channel, if you want to check them out. But basically, any kind of physical activity will just drain my energy so fast, which is why I don't do karate any longer. So I would want to be in a situation where I could either talk my way out of it or end it pretty damn quickly before my battery runs out, because once that happens, my own body will start attacking me and I'll be on the ground and the attacker doesn't have to do anything. But again, another thing they're saying about the instructors, like having an awareness of reality. It's like, I've done karate in many countries, and the best places I've been to really learn how to really defend yourself, was either when I went to South Africa, because it's not exactly safe there and the instructors there were very aware of being attacked, and in Israel. Again, there because it's pretty much a war zone there, some of the time, and the instructors at these particular places were very, very much more on the ball on a self-defense kind of element. Where when I've done karate in other countries, where it's generally peaceful, like in the UK or in Switzerland or other places, it's very much more their emphasis is on the karate side, the art side, and the technical side, getting everything just so. Whereas, like in South Africa and Israel, it was more on the not so much on the technical, although that is important, but just on the getting this punch to where it works, basically, making your techniques devastating rather than like art, because it is a martial art that I do. And some countries and instructors deal more on the art side, and other people deal more on the martial side. I'm not talking about sport karate, that's a completely different thing. So yeah, I do feel it is important and necessary for people to learn these self-defense skills, but I also feel just 1 or 2 classes isn't going to be sufficient. And then even multiple classes, you could get to the point where you're teaching classes, but again, the intent is different. Anyway, I'm going around in circles and I'm repeating myself. Anyway, if you have any comments, leave them below, and bye.